The story begins with a scene at the airport, where we see Taimu, the protagonist, arriving. As he leaves, he bumps into a girl, causing the coffee she was holding to fall to the floor. When the young woman turns to Taimu, she notices how handsome he is. Unsure how to react, she remains silent as he ignores her and continues on his way. This infuriates her, and she begins to badmouth him. Soon after, we meet Ari, the female protagonist, a scientist working on food experiments. She receives a call informing her that the company president is about to arrive, so she leaves her tasks and goes to meet him. When she joins her teammates, she hears, "You smell like fish." The director comments, "That just shows how hard you work." Everyone gathers because the company president is about to arrive, and they comment on his attractive appearance. The chairman of the board is also present, listening and excited about his arrival. When the announcement is finally made, everyone looks toward the entrance, but the president's secretary appears. He explains that Taimu prefers to keep a low profile and avoid attracting attention. Everyone is surprised, and the chairman of the board is irritated. Later, at the office, it's Ari's birthday. The director mentions that a restaurant has been reserved for the celebration, and that they will all have dinner together. Ari agrees, but soon receives a message from Min, her college friend for whom she has feelings. He asks her out on a date, and she is thrilled. She tells the director that she doesn't mind and suggests rescheduling the dinner. On the way to meet Min, while on the train, Ari receives a call from her friend John, wishing her a happy birthday. Ari mentions that she's on her way to meet Min. John mentions a necklace, saying that the last time they were at the restaurant, Min took it. She suggests that the necklace could be a gift for Ari, which makes her very happy. Meanwhile, Taimu is on his way to the company and upon opening the elevator runs into his grandfather. They talk, and the grandfather scolds him for not attending the meeting with everyone, saying he felt disrespected. Taimu replies that he was very busy, but his grandfather insists that he should have shown up. Then, his grandfather mentions an important project he wants Taimu to take on, a wedding. Taimu's assistant, Shasong, asks his grandfather, "Are you getting married?" And his grandfather replies, "No, I'm talking about Taimu's wedding, not mine." Taimu says he doesn't want to get married right now. His grandfather asks if he likes any girls, and he says no. Then his grandfather says, "If you like any girls, introduce me. I would never say no." Taimu remains silent. At that moment, his grandfather's cell phone alarm goes off. It's time for the soap opera. He starts watching it right there. Taimu says, "You can watch the soap opera at home." But his grandfather replies, "I'll watch it right here." Meanwhile, Ari goes to the restaurant to meet MV, who works there. Upon entering, she sees a cake and thinks MV might have made it for her. Overjoyed, she runs over to him. But upon closer inspection, she realizes the cake bears another couple's name. Ari tries to control herself, but ends up bumping into MV and ruining the cake. The cake's owners are irritated. In the kitchen, MV tries to calm her down. "Don't worry, they're regular customers, I'll give them something free." Ari feels a little better. MV then hands her a concert ticket and says, "Don't go alone. Bring someone with you." Ari says goodbye and leaves. Sitting at the bus stop, Ari is sad that MV didn't even remember to wish her a happy birthday. Meanwhile, Taimu is having dinner with his grandfather, who comments, "It's a shame you're coming to Korea for the first time and eating restaurant food. If you had a wife, she would have made homemade food." Taimu insists, "I'm not getting married. How many times do I have to tell you?" His grandfather retorts, "Why don't you want to get married? Is it because you two like each other?" Shasong replies, "I don't know about that, but I'm not gay. And even if I were, I wouldn't like him. He's not my type." The grandfather insists, "If you don't like each other, why does he keep refusing to marry you?" The scene shifts to Harry's parents, who own the restaurant. She returns and begins to help them, still visibly upset. Her father comments, "Today is your birthday, don't work." Soon after, Taimu's grandfather's health worsens, and he is hospitalized. Taimu questions the doctor about his grandfather's condition, who, in his typical manner, winks at the doctor. The doctor affirms that Taimu's grandfather cannot be subjected to stress. Upon hearing this, Taimu realizes his grandfather is faking his illness. He then says, "Since you're in the hospital, get a complete checkup, and leave. Meanwhile, R's family is working at the restaurant. They hear a noise coming from outside. Upon checking, they find their son arguing with someone from another restaurant for throwing trash in front of their establishment. R also becomes angry and starts arguing with the man. She ends up pushing him and he gets hurt. At home, R's mother scolds her for being so upset. Ari responds, "That anger came from you." Sad. She locks herself in her room, looks at the ticket she received for her flight, and then falls asleep. The next morning, Taimu has breakfast with his grandfather, who comments, "I set you up on a blind date." Taimu initially refuses, but his grandfather insists, and he eventually accepts. His grandfather is overjoyed by her reaction. Meanwhile, the man who was pushed sends a message demanding money. She can't afford it. At that moment, she receives a call from John, who invites her to talk. She tells him everything that happened. Then John receives a message from his father asking him to go on a blind date. She says, "Then go on the date." But John replies, "I will never accept an arranged marriage." John then asks Harry for help, asking her to go in his place on the date and act strangely to make the suitor give up. R refuses. John argues, "You've gone in my place before and made him angry. Now you have to do it again." Still, R refuses, until John offers her money, and needing it, she accepts. Meanwhile, Taimu is in the office and asks Zong to cancel the date, but receives a video call from her grandfather, who says, "I've canceled all your appointments. Now you can go to the date in peace." Talon thinks from here, "Since I got back, I've had nothing but headaches." John takes R to the dressing room, where she tries on outfits for the date and chooses one. John meticulously applies himself to Harry's makeup. In the next scene, Harry arrives at the date looking charming. She sits at the table, and Timon soon appears, touching her back and asking, "Are you John?" Harry replies, "Yes, I'm John." Taimu sits down, and upon seeing him, Harry thinks, "He's so handsome." Still, she feels scared and considers running away, but then remembers she's doing this for the money, so she decides to go through with the plan once more. She takes a deep breath, tries to calm herself, and asks his name. Taimu hands her his business card. Rella is shocked to realize he's the president of the company where she works. Nervous, she says she'll be back in a moment and runs to the bathroom, contemplating running away altogether. Even nervous, she returns to the table and tries to act normal. Taimu offers her tea, and as she takes the cup, her hands tremble. She thinks, "Since I'm here, I'll only leave after I've finished what I came for." She then comments that it's too hot and takes off her jacket, hoping he'll reject her for wearing more daring clothes. But Timo simply comments that she looks cold, realizing her plan has failed. She begins examining the luxury items around her, trying to appear frivolous in the hopes of making a bad impression. However, Taimu receives a text and barely pays attention to her, further thwarting her attempt. "Oh," so she comments, "it seems you're not interested in me." Taimu smiles and says that's not quite right. Then she decides to try something more daring, and suggests, "Shall we go to a room?" Taimu, surprised, asks, "What room?" Ari, hesitant, says it's a place where they can understand each other better. Taimu looks at Harry's feet and notices that she's shaking, noticing how nervous she is. Even so, she agrees to go to the room. Harry becomes anxious, worried that his plan has failed. They head to the hotel and book a room. On the way, she reflects, "Money isn't worth more than my dignity." She decides to flee, but is surprised by a woman who aggressively confronts her. She asks who the woman is, and she replies that she's dating the man Harry is involved with. She mentions the name Min Soo, but R claims she doesn't know anyone by that name. The woman begins to attack her, so R hides behind Taimu. Taimu tries to intervene and suggests the woman talk to her boyfriend, but she continues to insult Harry. The woman yells at Harry, "How embarrassing! Are you really going to the room with a man?" The woman shows a photo of a girl dressed like Harry. Harry looks at her and says, "That's not me." Angered, the woman begins to attack her again. Taimu intervenes again. "Talk to your boyfriend." He leaves the hotel thinking, "What's going on? I have no idea what he's thinking about me, but maybe it's best to end this." She approaches Taimu and says, "Why did you do this? It doesn't take two people to fool someone. One girl can do it alone." And adds, "I fool five at once." Suddenly, the woman reappears and threatens to tell everything. Harry gets scared and tells Taimu he's leaving, fearing being chased. She runs away and the woman follows. Harry is nearly hit when he runs into a car, apologizes to the driver, and runs away. Meanwhile, Shasong finds Taimu and asks, "Weren't you on the blind date?" Taimu replies, "The date is over." Later in the car, he gets a call from his grandfather asking how the date went. Taimu says it's over, and his grandfather responds, "You're definitely in trouble. I'll schedule another one." But Taimu surprises him by saying, "No need. I'm going to marry the girl from the date." Grandfather and Zong are surprised. Chasong screeches to a halt. R meets with John, who asks how things went. Ari explains that there were some problems, but in the end, everything turned out well, assuring her that he won't want to marry you. John is relieved and starts celebrating, but soon after receives a call from his father. When she returns, she is dejected. John asks what happened. John replies, "What did you do? Now he wants to marry you?" R is perplexed. Meanwhile, Shasong tells Taimu that he shouldn't marry a girl like Ari. Taimu replies that he's only considering it because his grandfather keeps pressuring him with arranged dates. That night, John calls Ari and asks, "What did you do to make him want to marry you?" Ari says she did nothing. John insists that she should meet Taimu again to resolve the situation. Ari refuses. "He's the president of my company. If this gets discovered, it will be a disaster." She suggests that John resolve the situation with him, but John also refuses. "What if my father finds out? Now it's your turn to go." The next day, Ari arrives at the office and waits for the elevator. When it arrives, her grandfather and Taimu are inside. She panics and hesitates to enter. "There's enough room," her grandfather says. She remains standing. Taimu asks, "Are you going in or not?" Then she covers her face with her hair and enters the elevator. Shasong asks her grandfather why he came to the company so early. His grandfather replies, "Taimu can't find me at home, so I came myself after the scare he gave me yesterday." Ari overhears the entire conversation. Taimu suggests, "Let's talk in the office." When the elevator arrives at her floor, Ari hurriedly drops her badge on the floor. Taimu picks it up and calls out to her. Hearing his voice, she panics. "How does he know my name?" Taimu says, "Your badge fell off." Ari turns quickly, trying to grab it without letting him see her face. She grabs her badge and runs off. High speed, leaving Taimu and his grandfather surprised. Back at the office, his grandfather asks Taimu if he's really willing to marry John. Taimu confirms that he is. He then investigates R's background at the company and discovers her excellent performance. Seeing a photo of her wearing glasses, he doesn't recognize her as the girl from the date. Later, she calls John and tells him she almost had a direct encounter with Taimu. John tries to reassure her that nothing will happen. The next day, John informs her that Taimu has reached out to her and begs R, though reluctant, to agree to help him one last time. At the restaurant, she waits for Taimu. When he arrives, he tries to call her but fails. He approaches and asks if she has two numbers. Without asking permission, he takes her cell phone, calls himself, and saves the number. R scolds him, "You shouldn't take someone's phone like that." Taimu replies, "Now that we're getting married, we should have each other's numbers." R retorts, "Who said I'm going to marry you?" Taimu asks, "And why did you invite me to that hotel? It was because you like me, right?" She denies it, arguing that she said it precisely to show her dislike for him. Then she walks away, saying she doesn't want him to keep pursuing her. Taimu follows her and asks why she's refusing marriage. R replies, "I can't marry someone I've only met once." Taimu then proposes that they go on 10 dates to get to know each other better before getting married. At that moment, R stumbles and almost falls down the stairs, but Taimu catches her. For a moment, the two stare at each other in silence. R walks away, saying she doesn't want to date or marry him. Leaving the restaurant, she sees MV approaching, and instinctively runs and gets into Taimu's car. Confused, he asks, "You said you don't want any kind of relationship with me. Why are you in my car?" MV then approaches and pulls Taimu closer. After MV leaves, she says, "I just came to tell you that I don't want anything to do with you." And he starts to get out of the car. Timo declares, "I'm going to marry you." R reacts, "What are you saying?" Taimu challenges, "Then give me a reason not to marry me." R responds, "I'm not interested in you, so I don't want to get married. And besides, you look like a flying dinosaur to me." With that, Ari leaves. In the next scene, Taimu is in the office when Shasong shows him a picture of a flying dinosaur. Taimu comments, "That doesn't look like me at all." Later, Ron finds himself at a bar and drinks heavily. The next morning, R's mother wakes up and they think, "How did we get here?" Then the scene from the previous night is shown where a police officer took them home because they were too drunk. Harry's mother scolds them and tells them to go upstairs. Ari and John remember what they did and apologize to their mother. Meanwhile, Timon is having breakfast with his grandfather and thinks, "How am I going to tell Grandpa the truth?" Just then, he receives a message from John. "I want to meet you." Back at the office, he tells Shasong, "I thought John had ended things last night, but now she wants to meet me. I think she's ready to get married." Sasan comments, "But I don't think so." Meanwhile, Radisa instructs John, "Go meet Taimu and tell the truth." A is at work when her colleague receives a call from Mimvu. She sees the call and is shocked. So she excuses herself from the director, follows her colleague, and sees her sitting with Mimvu in a restaurant. Upon seeing this, she becomes very sad and thinks, "The guy I liked is now someone else's boyfriend." Ari enters the office upset, sees Taimu, and runs out. In the midst of her rush, she bumps into a man, falls, and her flip-flop flies off, hitting Taimu in the face, causing a nosebleed. Taimu asks, "Whose flip-flop is that?" R replies that it's hers and runs off. Taimu follows. All the employees watch in shock as the company president chases after a girl with a flip-flop in his hand. Ari tries to escape through the elevator. As soon as the door opens, she enters and tries to close it as quickly as possible, but Taimu throws the flip-flop inside, activating the sensor and reopening the door. He comes in and asks, "Is that your sandal?" Arnega Timon looks at her feet and confirms it's hers. He asks, "Are you the girl who did the fish experiment?" "Right," she confirms. Taimu places the sandal next to her feet and says, "Your track record at the company is excellent. I won't punish you for this." She feels relieved and happy. When the elevator stops, she runs out. Later, while working in the office, the director asks why R is so sad. Just then, the colleague who left like a rocket appears, crying. Everyone asks what happened, and she reveals that she was rejected by me. Arnega, upon hearing this, is overjoyed. That night, John parks his car and ends up colliding with another vehicle. When John gets out, he sees someone standing in front of him. He hands over his card and says, "Any damage you incur, I'll pay." Shasong notices the name John on the company card and asks, "Are you John?" She confirms, "Yes, I'm John." At that moment, Taimo also witnesses the scene and asks, "If you're John from Marion, then who was the girl who came to meet me?" John counters, asking who he is to ask that kind of question. Taimo responds with his name and the company's name. Upon hearing this, John realizes his lie has been discovered. In the next scene, the two are sitting in a restaurant. John decides to tell the whole truth. He explains that he didn't want to get married, so he hired a girl to take his place. Taimo, irritated, demands to meet this girl and forces John to arrange the meeting. Meanwhile, Harry is in his room when he receives a message from John saying that everything is fine. Harry remains content, oblivious to what really happened. Jad is very apprehensive, wondering how to resolve the situation. Taimu, furious, decides to visit Shasong's house. To vent his anger, he starts cleaning the place and then prepares a meal for them both. During dinner, Sean comments that it's a good way to release tension, and Taimu agrees, noting that, besides calming his anger, it also leaves the house clean. He declares that he will not forgive the girl who called him a dinosaur, and that he is determined to get revenge. The next morning, Harry sleeps peacefully until he wakes up with John sitting in front of him. Harry comments, "You did well to reveal the truth." John then leads her to the wardrobe, allowing her to choose any dress. She gets ready, and John does her makeup. She mentions that she feels like she's about to go on a date. Suspiciously, she asks, "Am I actually going on a date?" John replies, "No, nothing like that." Later, the two are sitting in a restaurant. When John reveals, "Taimo is coming to find you," she despairs and accuses John of deceiving her. John tries to reassure her, saying that all he has to do is apologize and everything will be fine, but she promptly leaves. Ari also tries to escape, but at that moment, Taimo arrives. Disoriented, her bag falls, scattering business cards from her parents' restaurant across the floor. As she gathers them, Taimo approaches and calls her fake John. He takes one of the cards, and Harry is terrified. The two sit at the table, and Harry confesses that he acted that way out of financial need. Taimo asks if she thinks it was right to deceive him by pretending to be someone else. She apologizes. Then Taimo asks, "Why did you compare me to a dinosaur?" She retorts, "Is that why you got mad?" He replies that he's not mad, just curious. He adds, "Didn't anyone tell you that? You really do look like a dinosaur." Tao becomes irritated. He then states, "Whenever I call you, you will find me. If you don't come, I will come to your restaurant." She nods, promising to come whenever she is called. Meanwhile, Taimo's grandfather is watching a drama on TV when Tao comes in, declaring that she won't marry John. His grandfather asks why, but he doesn't answer and goes straight to his room. Later, when he arrives home, he sees Reedon leaving the house. Later, the two of them are sitting in their room and she tells him everything that happened. During her outburst, she becomes angry again and starts arguing with John again. His mother appears and saves John, scolding him for his behavior. Meanwhile, Timo watches TV and sees a dinosaur on the screen, which angers him. The next morning, Rai goes to work exhausted from not sleeping well. She sits at her desk hoping Taimo won't see her in the office. However, Taimo appears and asks Shasong about the day's commitments. Shasong informs him that his grandfather canceled all meetings and set up 15 blind dates. Tao attends them all, and upon returning, Shasong asks if any girl caught his eye. Taimo says none of them compare to the fake John. Shasong agrees. That girl is different. Tao returns to the office, where his grandfather is already waiting for him. His grandfather asks which girl he liked. Taimo replies that none. Then his grandfather shows him a notebook with the names of more candidates and says it's okay, as there are still others to meet. Tao is shocked and declares, "No need for that. I already have a girlfriend." His grandfather asks why he didn't tell him sooner, and Taimo explains that they had a fight, but everything is fine now. His grandfather asks to meet her as soon as possible and leaves. After he leaves, Chasong asks, "Why did you lie? Where are you going to find a girlfriend now?" Taimo decides to call Ari and ask her to meet him. When she arrives, he suggests she pretend to be his girlfriend in front of his grandfather. She refuses, but Taimo offers her money. She thinks about her parents' debts and the need to help, but still hesitates. In the next scene, R is at home, when she receives another call from Taimo, informing her that he's in front of her building. She goes to him and receives a contract. R refuses again and runs out of the car. Tao chases after her, and when she catches up, R sees her brother, arriving and tries to hide behind Taimo. He asks what she's doing and puts her hand back on his shoulder, starting toward the building. Tao loses his balance, and she grabs his hand, but they both fall together. Harry's brother notices something unusual, and while they're on the ground, Taimo and R accidentally kiss. R is surprised and apologizes. Seeing her brother watching them, she quickly lowers her head and accidentally hits Taimo on the head, who passes out. Her brother rushes in and tries to wake the unconscious Taimo. The next day, Taimo presents a contract stipulating that they must pretend to be a couple. However, if she makes any mistakes, she will have to pay 100 times the agreed-upon amount, ati. First, she refuses, but Taimo threatens her with a lawsuit if she doesn't sign. With little choice, she eventually signs. Afterward, Taimo provides her with information about her family, instructing her to memorize everything before meeting her grandfather on Sunday. At home, she dedicates herself to memorizing every detail. In the middle of the night, she receives a call from Tao asking them to meet. Upon arriving, he asks how much she has memorized and begins having her repeat the information. She then asks, What if Grandpa asks where we first met? What will we say? Taimo offers an answer, but she doesn't like it. She suggests the story could be, "We met in the rain and shared an umbrella." However, Taimo rejects the idea, revealing that he lost his parents in a storm accident when he was a child and therefore hates the rain. While driving R home, she falls asleep. He gently supports her head with his hand. When she wakes, he discreetly turns her face to the window. When they arrive, she gets out of the car, and Taimo notices her makeup smeared on the window, smiling at the sight. The next day, Taimo attends a meeting at the company and asks about the progress of the Italian food line. The director responds that the project is in development. After the meeting, Harry shows the director a list of several chefs and tells him he can choose any of them. But the director suggests, "Why don't we give flying a try? He's also a great boss." A is thrilled with the idea. Meanwhile, Taimo's grandfather is watching television and sees a couple kissing, which reminds Taimo of the kiss he had with Harry. Meanwhile, R goes to Manu's restaurant and photographs the dishes he prepares. Afterwards, she goes home and prepares a presentation for the flying project. The next day, she presents the project to the director, who says, "Now you have to show this to the president." Although R refuses, she is taken to the presentation room. With her face covered by a mask, she gives the presentation. Later that night, she goes to meet with Vu at the restaurant. But upon arriving, she sees him kissing his ex-girlfriend. Shocked, she drops the briefcase she was carrying. Min notices her presence and asks if she came to talk about the project. Ari replies, "We'll talk later," and leaves. On the way back, someone bumps into her, causing her briefcase and phone to fall. Just then, Taimo is calling, and the call is accidentally answered. Sitting on the sidewalk, she begins to cry loudly, and Taimo hears everything over the phone. He says, "I don't know what happened, but she's crying so much." The next morning, she receives the concert tickets Min gave her and realizes they're for today. Shortly after, she leaves the house, and Taimo appears to take her to her grandfather. In the next scene, she recognizes Taimu's grandfather, who immediately takes a liking to her. During their conversation, he asks, "Why did you break up with Taimu?" She replies that he was always busy with work, which is why they grew apart. But now they've talked, and she no longer has any complaints because one day, despite his backlog of work, he came to meet her in the rain, showing he cares. As they leave the meeting, she asks, "How was my performance?" Tao responds angrily, "I told you not to mention the rain, and yet you mentioned it anyway." Afterwards, the two go out to eat buns. Just then, the concert tickets fall out of Harry's bag, and his grandfather suggests they watch together. In the next scene, he leaves them at the door of the venue. She tries to convince Taimo to wait a bit and return as soon as his grandfather leaves, but when they turn around, they realize he's still there watching them and are forced to watch the concert. During the show, the girl becomes emotional and begins to cry, remembering me. Taimo hands her a tissue. After the breakup, they leave the place. Taimo asks, "Do you still have feelings for him?" Ari confirms that he does, but mentions that he's back with his ex and she's happy for their happiness. Then they go to a stand for something to eat. While R talks on the phone with her mother, some children play cricket nearby. The ball is thrown hard and hits Ari. Taimo brings Ari some ice, which she applies to her bruised eye. She comments, "You're an amazing person. You should pursue a real relationship instead of something superficial. I'm sure any girl would be happy with you." When she gets home, she notices the swelling in her eye, and at that moment receives a text from Taimo. "What happened today was unexpected, but I liked it." Ari smiles as she reads it. The next morning, she screams loudly in her room, startling her family. When she comes out, her eye is badly swollen. Ari thinks she hopes Taimo doesn't recognize her because of this. She rushes to work and waits for the elevator. He removes a bandage and tries to cover his eye. Just as the elevator opens, Taimo is there, surprised. Ari drops the bandage. Taimo sees his face but doesn't recognize it. They enter the elevator together. Chasong then alerts Taimo. "We need to go to the testing area." Ari listens and is perplexed.